Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the May 7th, 2026 meeting of the North Carolina State Board of Education. I'm Eric Davis, Chair of the Board, and I call this meeting to order. I'm delighted to welcome all board members and advisors, staff, on-site visitors, online listeners, and social media followers. Please note you can follow the State Board of Education on its social media platforms at edstateboard_NC. And you can follow the meeting online and see all of our materials by going to SBE meetings at www.dpi.nc.gov. We're joining you today after our two-day planning and work session, and we've been most fortunate to spend the last 2 days and today in beautiful Duplin County. We're meeting in the clubhouse at the River Landing in Wallace, North Carolina, and it's been a wonderful 2 days of listening, of learning, of sharing, and most of all, celebrating the wonderful things and achievements that are going on in public schools all over North Carolina, but particularly here in the southeast region of North Carolina. And we want to express our appreciation to every partner who joined us for this meeting, who shared their observations and their thoughts and their aspirations and their dreams for our students. We share those dreams with you, and we share your commitment to make those dreams a reality for the students of the Southeast region and all across North Carolina. Board members, you're reminded that it's our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. And if during the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. And I recall from our closed session last evening that Mr. Hall will recuse himself from the item contained in the chair's report later in this meeting. Board members, you've received the agenda last week and had the opportunity to review it. I ask if there are any requests for changes to the agenda. Hearing none, I request a motion to approve the May 7th, 2026 agenda of the North Carolina State Board of Education. Motion by Mr. Keenan.
Second.
Second by Dr. Oxendine. Any discussion? Mr. Fafaria.
Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan, Mr. Hall, Dr. Mason,
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn,
Yes.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Treasurer Briner, Lieutenant Governor Hunt, Vice Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes, motion carries. We have an agenda. We're going to begin today at probably what is always the highlight of our meetings, which is special recognitions. Actually, we're going to start somewhere else. Thank you, Mr. Pavaria. At this time, I'd like to call on my colleague, Ms. Kamnitz, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much. So now we'll turn to our special recognitions, favorite part of our meeting, and I want to begin by recognizing any of our local superintendents who happen to be joining us for this meeting. Could you please stand so that we can thank you and celebrate you for your service? Thank you so much. We're here to serve superintendents and local boards of education and teachers all over our state. And I'm sure every superintendent would join us in saying that the key to their success are those who lead in our public schools, principals who every day provide the leadership, the culture, the environment, and the setting for success for our students. Our principals are, they're the ones who hire our teachers, who train our teachers, who retain our teachers and staff. And they're the ones that in the midst of uncertainty and life storms, they stand tall just like these lighthouses that grace our shores and shine the light to safe harbor. And we're just really fortunate to have an outstanding group of principals leading our schools across North Carolina. But today we'd like to honor one of those, a principal who is a terrific spouse, father, a gentleman of character, an inspirational leader, and a North Carolina professional educator. You know, we aspire to be the best. Well, if you want to see the best, please join me in celebrating our principal of Orange County High School, the National Principal of the Year, Mr. Jason Johnson. And I'm sure Principal Johnson and every principal across the state would would join in this. You know, whenever we recognize or thank a superintendent or principal for whatever they've achieved, the most common response we get is, well, thanks. But it's really about the team. And it really is the team. And there's a lot of different roles on our teams in every school. But one role in particular that we want to recognize this week are our teachers. This is Teacher Appreciation Week. In my opinion, every week should be Teacher Appreciation Week. And you know, we have with us at the table two of our outstanding teachers, Miss Candeso and Miss Jones, who are just shining examples of the terrific teachers that stand before our students every day. So would you join me in thanking our teachers across the state? And a another shining example of the outstanding teachers that we have across our state happens to be located in a neighboring Onslow County. The 2026 Boroughs Welcome Teacher of the Year is Kason Justice, a history teacher at Swansboro High School. Next month, we will have, or at our August meeting, we'll have an opportunity to more formally recognize Kason Justice, but he's just one more shining example of the terrific teachers across our state. So we look forward to honoring him. And at this time, I'd like to turn to my colleague, Mr. Blackburn, to share a special recognition. Mr. Blackburn.
Thank you, Chair Davis. As many of you know, last week we honored our folks that work in our cafeterias. And I have been involved in a nonprofit. It's called Chief Cares. It was started by Catherine and Eric Church. And they saw after the flood of Helene the tremendous need we had for housing all over the state of North Carolina, but particularly in the mountains. So we began building houses, and last Friday we gave a home to a family who is the lead at our local elementary school, one of our local elementary schools, Miss Barbara and her son Jonah and August. They'd never had a home, they'd never had anything new. So after very trying times, we were able to award them a home. There you see Miss Barbara and a lady that is my co-conspirator, Miss Jane Bumgarter. And we were very happy to be honoring this. Our work will continue. We're going to continue to build homes for teachers, policemen, and critical workers throughout the mountains of North Carolina. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Blackburn, thank you for your leadership, and please thank the churches for us and for all the things that you're doing to support the teachers and students in the mountains of North Carolina. And at this time, we come to a special recognition. I'm delighted to turn to the chair of the Duplin County Board of Education, Mr. Brent Davis, for this recognition. Welcome, Chairman Davis.
Mr. Chair, fellow board members, Superintendent Green, distinguished guests, I want to first start by just welcoming you again to Duplin County. I can't tell you how honored we are to have y'all here and host this event. I mean, it's a true honor for y'all to be down here, and we're glad you get to see a lot of the hard work that's going on here in this county, not just currently, but for many years. We've got a group of dedicated educators, and I tell you, they do a phenomenal job each and every day, and really probably don't get the appreciation they deserve, but we greatly appreciate what they do and your willingness to come down here. It's a true honor for me to be up here today to talk about such a revolutionary leader and an extraordinary man. Dr. Austin Abasahan served our county for the better part of 15 years as a superintendent. And I know each and every one of you know 15 years for a superintendent is a pretty long time, and one that he truly intended to make even longer. And we were hoping that that would have happened. Um, he did so many just remarkable things in this county. And, I'm due to time, I can't even go to them all, but I'm going to hit some high spots. When he come here, he implemented our early college initiative, which gives so many of our students so much more access to early college classes. They built our STEM program out to STEM labs in our middle schools, STEM centers in our elementary schools. We even initiated what we're currently using today. He was really the brain and the thought behind turning our STEM program into a STEMA initiative, which brought in arts and agriculture. And I'm sure as you've seen in your time here in Duplin County, agriculture is the economic engine of this county. And so the fact that his foresight saw that we needed to bring that to our students was just an amazing concept at the time. And it has been just remarkable what it's done for our students in the ways of not only giving them exposure, but giving them job opportunities as well as they move forward in their life. Outside of his career, he was just an amazing man, grounded in his faith in God. And I always said he was, there's some people that tells you about their faith. There's others that show you, and he showed you each and every day. He grew up very humble beginnings in Nigeria, worked his way up through a lot of very, very tough circumstances, and knew the value of education. And the one thing that he did in his quest every day was to make sure he give every child that opportunity. And I can say 100%, and all these folks out here that had the opportunity to work with him, Mr. Keenan, he give it his all every day, working tirelessly to provide opportunities for kids right up until his passing. I can't stand up here without even saying through cancer treatments and continued uh, difficulties with that. He worked. I mean, he worked. He did not want to give it up. That's just how much he loved what he did. So the fact that y'all are willing to honor him today is a true honor to our county, to our teachers, our staff at our school, and our students, and definitely his family. And I can't tell you how much we are so appreciative that y'all are willing to do this. So at this time, I'm going to call up Mr. Basahan, and we have his two sons with us today, Justice and Trust.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for those fine remarks. And this board here knows already how I felt about Dr. O, so we won't repeat that. But throughout my whole tenure, I've always tooted his horn because he was, again, that's what he described him. And in his honor, I would like to read the resolution for the North Carolina State Board of Education resolution honoring Dr. Austin Obasahan for his outstanding service to public education in North Carolina. Whereas the North Carolina State Board of Education takes pride in recognizing individuals whose leadership, dedication, and service have strengthened public education and enriched the lives of students, educators, and communities across the state. And whereas Dr. Austin Obasanjo exemplified these qualities through more than 30 years of distinguished service in public education, including 15 years as superintendent of Duplin County Schools, and whereas Dr. Obasanjo's steadfast leadership was marked by kindness, wisdom, humility, and unwavering commitment to fostering a culture of unity, compassion, and excellence within the Duplin County Schools community. And whereas throughout his career, Dr. Obasanjo served in numerous roles, including teacher, coach, assistant principal, central, central office director, and superintendent, demonstrating a deep and enduring commitment to the success and well-being of all students. And whereas Dr. Obasanjo was a visionary leader who expanded opportunities for students, including pioneers district-wide early college program, making Duplin County Schools one of the first districts in the nation to implement such a model. And whereas under his leadership, the district experienced growth and innovation, including the implementation of science, technology, engineering, arts, math, and agriculture STEMA programming, and strategic structural improvements to better serve students and families. And whereas Dr. Obasanjo believed that every member of the school community played a vital role in fulfilling the district mission and fostered a culture of one family grounded in collaboration, respect, and shared purpose. And whereas his contribution to education were recognized nationally, including being named a leader to learn from by Educational Week in 2013 and again highlighted in 2022. And whereas Dr. Obasanjo's faith, servant leadership, and deep compassion guided his work, leaving a lasting legacy not only in programs and achievements, but in the meaningful relationships he built and the countless lives he touched. And whereas the board acknowledges that Dr. Obasanjo was a devoted husband and father and a respected leader whose life and work profoundly impacted his family, colleagues, students, and the broader community. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the North Carolina State Board of Education expresses deepest condolences to the Obasanjo family and extends heartfelt gratitude for sharing Dr. Obasanjo's life, leadership, and service with the people of North Carolina, and resolved that the board expresses its sincere and heartfelt thanks to Mrs. Yunasa Obasanjo for her generosity in sharing her beloved husband with the state of North Carolina, Duplin County, and its students, whose lives were enriched by her leadership, compassion, and unwavering commitment to education, and resolved that the board honors and commends Dr. Austin Obasanjo posthumously as a servant leader of exceptional character, integrity, and vision, whose legacy will continue to inspire future generations of educators and students, and resolve that the board expresses sincere appreciation for Dr. Basan's lifelong dedication to public education and his unwavering belief in the potential of every child, and resolve that the board directs the state superintendent of public instruction to enter a copy of this resolution into the official minutes of the North Carolina State Board of Education, and that a appropriately signed copy be presented to the Basan family. And this is signed by our Chairman of the State School Board, Eric C. Davis, and our Superintendent Maurice Moore Green. Oh.
All right. So now we'd like to go out on the patio. So if my colleagues and any members of Duplin County, please join us out on the patio. We'll make a photo out there and continue on break and a celebration. Okay, thanks. All right, we're back in session and we'll now move to our committee meetings. I do want to highlight that this is the first meeting in which we are working under a new committee structure, which is designed to better align our work to the strategic plan and support implementation of the strategic plan. It also includes moving to a co-chair model to facilitate greater collaboration and partnership in our work. So at this time, we'll move to the Student and School Excellence Committee with co-chairs Ms. Kamnitz and Ms. Moore, and I'll turn to Ms. Kamnitz for this meeting. Ms. Kamnitz.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Ms. Moore and I share the responsibility for the work of this committee, and we start off as we always do, or I guess we don't always do because this is the first time we've been this committee, on a report from the Charter School Review Board on their April meeting. So Nikki, thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. There we go. All right. Good morning. Nikki Nowinski, the Assistant Director for the Office of Charter Schools. Thank you for having us here today. This is a summary of the April CSRB meeting. I'm sorry, I don't see where the present. There we go. Okay. This shows that, as usual, our live stream meetings are on the YouTube page, just like your meetings are, as well as recordings of previous meetings. On our website, you can find our meeting calendars, approved minutes, and any member contact information that you would like to see. Our meetings usually start off with amendments, and so we had 4 in the month of April. 2 were mission statement amendments from Maureen Joy and Pocosin Innovative Charter. Those mission statements were unanimously approved. Northeast Carolina Prep Remote Charter Academy requested a change from a regional model to a statewide model, and their request was approved 6-2. Followed by BH2 Stream, which is a school in our Ready to Open process. They requested a relocation over 10 miles from their original approved location. That amendment was unanimously denied for that school. Next, CSRB received an update on the Ready to Open process. Currently, we have 7 schools completing that process soon. They received updates on facilities, enrollment, how each school is doing on their submissions and participation in the Ready to Open process, as well as their budget standing. As of the April meeting, we had 1 school that was at or above its projected enrollment. All others are being monitored, and we will get an update on all of those schools on Monday, again, when CSRB meets. The next steps for RTO, again, on Monday, they're going to receive ratings and comments on each of the categories for facility and operations, their finance and budget, how they're looking on staffing, enrollment, their RTO participation, how their governance is looking, and the status on any submissions that they have turned in or are missing. So the CSRB is going to get a detailed report in both May and June meetings. After that, we received a presentation from United Community School from Mecklenburg County. They are a low-performing school, and so they presented on their status at this point, what strategies they're using to improve their school, and how their data is looking at this point in the school year. And then last but not least, Mrs. Logue, our director, presented an overview of statutes related and rules and policies related to accelerated charter applications and fast track replication applications. We had both of those scenarios this year with our Ready to Open schools, so we just wanted to clarify and talk about the 2 types of applications. And that completed that meeting.
Questions for Ms. Nowinski? Hearing none, thank you so much for that update.
Thank you.
We now move on to, I believe we have 7 action items today. The first one, SSE1, is remote academy applications. We discussed this last month and had quite a few questions and wanted a little more information. So Dr. McBride is here to walk us through through a little more detail, and we all had as homework quite a bit of reading that also added to what Dr. McBride is going to share with us right now.
Good morning. Oh, am I there? Okay. Good morning, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, board members, Superintendent Green, and members of the listening audience. On Tuesday, you heard from 2 of our currently operating remote academies about the successes they have experienced serving students through innovative and flexible learning models. You also heard from Hyde County, who is now requesting a change in designation to provide additional flexibility to their students who face unique challenges due to the rural nature of their county's landscape. As requested, we also submitted why statements from each of these schools that were requesting open, and hopefully you had an opportunity to kind of look at that. In addition to Hyde County's request, Brunswick County, Northampton County, Wayne County, and Asheboro City Schools are pursuing remote academies to provide flexible, high-quality learning options that better meet the diverse academic, social, medical, and scheduling needs of their students. Next slide, please. These remote academies will allow PSUs to keep students connected to their local public schools while expanding personalized learning opportunities, increasing student engagement, improving access and continuity of instruction, and retaining families who may otherwise seek homeschool, charter, or private school alternatives. Next slide, please. These schools all plan to utilize a blend of synchronous and asynchronous instruction and will provide students with school-issued technology to ensure access to coursework and instructional support. All remote academies will continue to meet the same academic, accountability, and operational standards required of traditional public schools. Next slide, thank you. In addition to the 6 schools seeking approval to open or change status, 2 currently approved remote academies are requesting grade level modifications. Wilson County Schools is requesting to remove grades 6 and 7, resulting in service to only grades 8 through 12. And Caldwell County Schools is requesting to remove grades 4 and 5 and transition to serving only secondary students in grades 6 through 12. Finally, back one, thanks. Finally, 2 remote academies are requesting closure. Burke Virtual Academy and Pitt County Virtual School have experienced declining enrollment over recent years, and both districts have determined that the programs are no longer sustainable. These schools are requesting official closure beginning with the 26-27 school year. Thank you for your consideration and open for any questions.
Are there any questions for Dr. McBride? Vice Chair Duncan.
This is not actually a question, sort of a comment. I think the way we heard the presentation from Hyde County 2 days ago, which was very effective, was it was less that it was rural. Of course, it is rural, but it also has the barrier of the Atlantic Ocean, which separates by a considerable distance much of its student body. And so I don't think we would generally use just because rural as a basis, but it has unique geographical challenges.
Yes.
So
they're extreme geographical challenges.
Dr. Oxenberg.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the follow-up information that's been provided. My question has to do with the faculty in the remote academy. Are they 100% assigned to the remote academy, or do they teach outside remote in traditional?
It depends on the school district. So I believe we have one school district that's applying who is entirely remote faculty, and then others who are splitting.
A combined model.
So some of their periods will be face-to-face and some will be virtual. So secondary, it's a little easier to do at secondary because you can have certain class periods that are for the remote academy classes, and then you can have certain class periods that are face-to-face.
Okay. Yeah, you've answered the question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So later this morning, we will be voting on this item, which includes the applications, the changes, and the closures. Moving on to SSE 2, we received last month the annual report from SACE, the State Advisory Council on Indian Education. Dr. Locklear and Mr. Bell, who's the new chair of the council, presented this report to us. The data they shared shows improvement over the past few years, with much work still to do. The report also included recommendations to develop a tribal consultation protocol and to support the enhancement of statewide data systems. Any questions on that one? SSE 3 is a rule update, and Dr. Day is going to update us on some minor changes to this item since it was reviewed last month.
Thank you. Good morning. We are bringing this rule back to you. You had seen this back in January. You went out for public comment. Excuse me. So some of the changes, we changed the title from limited English proficiency to English learner programming. And then also we added the MMT, which is the multiple measure tool that we've talked about for several months. When we brought to you a change in the criteria for exiting an L program, the multiple measure tool gives a pathway for students to exit beyond just that one test that they take. Through the access testing. We also added an accountability test 011, which is a state board policy on accountability. That also was updated to include the MMT, the multiple measure tool, to align with the rule and practice in the field.
Any questions for Dr. Day? Thank you, Dr. Day. SSE 4 is a restart continued authorization review for cohorts 3, 4, and 5 schools. Mr. Toronto presented this review last month. 23 schools in 7 districts are recommended for continued authorization of restart. 4 must reapply to continue authorization, with 3 districts submitting applications to continue for review and approval. Additionally, Guilford County is requesting that 15 schools exit restart. Continuing on the restart votes that we'll be having later on today, SSE 5 is a request from Guilford County Schools to exit schools from restart, and this is partnered with the request I just mentioned. It exits 7 schools in cohort 2. And then finally, SSE 6 is a submission for new restart applications from Cumberland County Schools. The superintendent is requesting that 5 schools be approved to begin implementing the restart model for 26-27. So those are 3 separate items, all related to our restart schools. And any questions on any of those? Finally, we have SSE 7, which is a rule readoption and policy update on driver education. And Mr. Collins is going to fill us in on a couple of small changes that have happened in the last month. Or maybe longer than that, I'm not sure.
Good morning, everyone. So, am I on? Okay. So, as Dr. Kamnitz mentioned, I'm here to provide an update on the driver education rules. They're coming back for final adoption. If you'll recall, the state board has 3 existing rules that have to be readopted by June 30th of this year to avoid expiration under the decennial review process. The board first saw these back in January, or sent them out in January for public comment. That includes the readoption of 3 rules and the adoption of 2 new rules as a comprehensive rewrite of the driver education rule scheme. So that public comment period is concluded. We're back for final adoption. There's a few technical changes that you'll see in the packet that you have, but I also wanted to just highlight one substantive change for the board. Under Rule 06E.302, this addresses the requirements for driver education instructors. We've added an additional option for prospective instructor to satisfy the training requirements. So in addition to the DPI STEP program, which is currently dormant, but we're looking at ways to revive that, as well as the DMV instructor program, educators would be able to complete an instructor program through a commercial driver training school. They have the ability to offer their own instructor training programs under regulations from the DMV. So the hope is that this continues to expand the opportunities for educators in the field to become trained as driver education instructors. And in addition, we are asking the board to go ahead and approve conforming changes to the driver education policies. That's the DRIV policy series. So that would just simply make those policies align with the rules so that when folks look at the policy website, they'll be able to see the updated information there as well.
Any questions for Mr. Collins? Thank you, Mr. Collins. Hearing none, Chair Davis, that concludes the work of the Student and School Excellence Committee.
Thank you, Ms. Kamnitz. SSE is bringing us 7 items for action today. Any questions on those? Seeing none, we'll turn to the Parent, Community, and Schools Support Committee, co-chaired by Mr. Reginald Keenan and Mr. Wendell Hall. And I'll turn to Mr. Keenan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, our committee, PCSS, have one action item, and that's going to be proposed amendments to the athletic rules and related policies, and Mr. Ryan Collins is going to address that for us.
Should just stayed up here. Well, when Mr. Alford came on last year, I thought I finally would be free of this particular agenda item, but seeing as he is not able to be with us, and I know how much you all miss my dad jokes, just think of me as Michael Jordan coming back for his second round after retirement. So again, back in January, at the same time he looked at the driver's ed rules, the state board was presented with proposed amendments to the athletics rules and policies. Mr. Alford presented those and talked about some of the recommended changes. Those are now have gone through public comment and are now back for final adoption. I'm not going to reiterate the proposed changes that the board heard in January, but I do want to highlight a few things that have been recommended changes since the initial proposal. So first, and I think Mr. Pari is going to pull it up here, under Rule 06E.207, these are part of the student eligibility rules. Subparagraph E is part of the transfer rule, which ordinarily requires high school student athletes who transfer schools to sit out competition for 365 days. Of course, if they transfer within the same public school unit, such as if they transferred within Durham Public Schools, the district can waive that transfer restriction under its own policies, or if they transfer between two different PSUs and they're on the same, and they agree that this student was transferring for non-athletic purposes, that rule could be waived. Part E1C, as currently written, sets out a process for when those public school units don't agree on whether or not that student transferred for athletic purposes. And it requires the administering organization, usually the High School Athletic Association, to serve as a fact finder and determine whether or not that transfer was for athletic purposes. But the rule doesn't really explain what the administrating organization is supposed to do if it finds in favor of the student being able to remain eligible. In practice, the organization has been issuing waivers of that rule. And so what we're simply proposing to do here is to codify that in the rule to say that if they find in favor of the student, they believe that the student didn't transfer for athletic purposes, then they would issue a waiver of that transfer rule. Second, looking at subparagraph F1 of the same rule, this talks about the academic eligibility requirements. If you recall from the initial proposed amendment, there was a recommendation to clarify that the maximum allowable absences under that rule did not include excused absences. And the rules originally written said those would be excused absences under the local policies of the PSU. However, now that the board is on track to update and readopt the attendance rules, which are about a month behind these, we recommend going ahead and cross-referencing the state board's attendance rules as opposed to those local policies. And both of these changes are reflected in the corresponding changes to policy ATHL 005. And then lastly, I want to highlight policy ATHL 013, paragraph 7. This is the section that details the structure of appeal hearings for the appeals process. Since I've been here, and I think since the process was created, the hearings have been structured in a way where the rule administrator would present their decision first, followed by the aggrieved party, that's usually the student or the school that's appealing that decision. But for those of you that are lawyers on the board, you know that typically the appellant goes first in these proceedings, and then the other party responds to those arguments. Sometimes the appealing party gets a rebuttal as well. So we're just recommending this small switch in policy to sort of make those hearings more efficient and make sure that we're able to resolve those in an effective manner. So that's contained purely within the policy because it's more of an internal program, internal part of the process. But I just wanted to highlight that. So those are the changes since the substantive changes since what you all saw in January. Are there any questions about any of that?
Thank you.
Also, along the lines of, for those of us who are lawyers, it's the appellant and appellee, and then there is a rebuttal period, generally speaking. How is that built in here?
Yeah, that's allowed for in the discretion of the person that's chairing the panel.
And any kind of limitations? Typically, as you know, there's limitations on rebuttal. So any kind of limitations on that built in or just in the discretion of the panel leader?
Yeah, so each party has by default 30 minutes to present its arguments, and in my experience sitting on these, they typically don't take that much time, but they would have that allotted time similar to an oral argument in appellate court.
Any questions or comments, anyone? If not, that concludes the report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins and Mr. Keenan. We'll now move to the Government and Community Affairs Committee, which is co-chaired by Mr. Hall and Mr. Blackburn, and I'll turn to Mr. Hall.
Thank you. Blackburn.
I stand corrected. I'll turn to Mr. Blackburn.
Thank you. I'm joined in this work by Mr. Wendell Hall. Sorry, we didn't mean to switch up on you, Chair. And I will call on Mr. Jeff Coltrane to give us our legislative update. Hello, Mr. Coltrane.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Green, members of the board. Great to see you all again this morning. Want to take a couple minutes and provide you with an update on what's been happening with the legislature over the last couple of weeks. The short session convened on April 21st, so about 3 weeks ago. The bill filing deadline for regular bills, so these are policy bills that would affect the whole state, was April 30th. There's also what they call local bills, which are bills that would affect a particular region or county or city. The bill filing deadline for that is actually, it was the 5th. So we've seen a bunch of bills come in, but in total, since as of April 5th, we've seen over 200 bills filed in the House and almost 300 filed in the Senate. And to remind you from last year, there were over 1,800 bills filed in 2025. Less than 100 of them have become law. So just to put that in perspective. So most of these bills that are filed, we're not going to see anything happen with. But we are sorting through all the bills and figuring out which ones we're going to be keeping an eye on and which ones may be moving. And we'll keep you up to date on those over the course of the session. There were 2 bills, though, that have been filed where there's been action that we wanted to make you aware of. The first is actually a bill that we had requested, which was based on the State Board and DPI's priorities around some teacher licensure changes. It's Senate Bill 840. This bill passed the Senate Education and Higher Education Committee on April 29th. And this bill would repeal the pre-professional skills test requirement. This is the Praxis Core, something that Pepsi had recommended to the board and the board had adopted as a recommendation. It also would repeal the requirement for beginning teachers to attempt a licensure exam in their first year of teaching. And this was also a request from the state board. If you remember, currently in licensure, they have to pass the exam by their 3rd year of teaching, but the law currently says they must attempt it in their first year. And of course, that's confusing, but also could leave a teacher who could pass in the 3rd year but didn't take it in the first year in limbo. So removing that requirement. There's 2 other changes that were added, which our licensure team is supportive of. The first is some clarifications on the requirements for reciprocity for out-of-state licensure. This is something that actually was filed in a bill last year that we had alerted the Senate was great. There's some language in this reciprocity thing that says that the license that the teacher carries from out of state has to have substantially similar requirements. That's confusing. How do you determine all those things? We've written rules around it, but if a teacher's been teaching for 10 years in another state, is in good standing, and they can't find their test records from when they took their licensure exam, they have to retake the exam. So this would actually make it so that if the teacher has an out-of-state license, has been teaching for 3 years, and is in good standing, they get a North Carolina license. So it'll help to simplify that reciprocity. The other provision that was added is something that was proposed last year as well. So currently, if a teacher has a limited license issued by the state board, I think they can carry that over for 2 terms, so it's a total of 6 years. There is this provision would allow a teacher with a limited license that has positive growth for 2 out of the past 3 years. The board can convert that limited license to a continuing professional license. So if they're showing effectiveness, the board can grant them a full license. Again, something that our licensure team felt was a good positive move as well. Any questions on this bill? Yes.
Yes, thank you. I have a quick question about the word positive
Yes.
growth. Is that going to be uh, left to the State Board of Education to define
So I believe, and I'm going to look at Dr. Tomberlin, I believe positive
based
growth
on a
is a term
recommendation perhaps
within,
from Pepsi?
within EVOS that is
Oh.
defined, but I'll let Dr. Tomberlin explain it.
Thank you. And thank you for that question. So in our feedback, try not to get too in the weeds here on EVOS, but EVOS is measured, the average is centered at 0. So the average effectiveness of a teacher in the state is centered on 0. What we're saying is a teacher can still meet effectiveness if they're as far down as -2. That's still in the range of what we consider consistent with average. But this policy indicates that a teacher can only convert from a limited license to a CPL if that 2 out of the 3 years shows positive, greater than 0 growth. So you can't be down almost to not meets and use that to convert the license. You have to be above the 0 line in order to convert the license.
Okay, so we've already resolved that. Sounds like we're
Definitionally, if they wrote
definitionally.
the way that is written in the or proposed in the legislation, that would be our interpretation at this at this at DPI of what positive growth means.
Okay.
It's above 0.
Sounds like we're in good place. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions on the licensure bill? Great. Yes.
Sorry for asking so many questions.
No, it's great.
I'm a little concerned about that. If, for example, a teacher showed proficiency increases for 2 years in a row,
Mhm.
you wouldn't necessarily meet growth 2 years in a row. That happened last year where proficiency increases occurred and it was not considered to have met growth. So I'm a little concerned that we're carefully delineate the message to teachers that meeting or exceeding your proficiency from the year before for 2 years won't necessarily get you that CPL license, if I understand it right.
I'm going to look back to Dr. Tomberlin again on this one.
So you're absolutely correct. So a teacher in year 1 could be have a certain proficiency rate with their students, and in the next year with a different group of students, they have a different proficiency rate, which may be higher than the one they experienced the year before. The distinction is that growth looks at that teacher in that year took the students from where they were in their based on their prior testing history and how far they moved them in that year, which is very different. So I think the point I'm trying to make is those two things seem like they should be related, but in fact they are not because they're measuring two different things. But your point is well taken. A teacher could demonstrate in year 1, they could have 40% proficiency with their 3rd grade reading students. And then year 2, with a different group of students, exhibit a 50% proficiency rate. Growth would not necessarily align with that shift in proficiency because you're looking at 2 different sets of students. In the proficiency situation, those are 2 unrelated groups of students, whereas EVOS focuses on the movement of that group of students from year 1 to year 2. So there will be, I can't say how often that discrepancy will occur, but the likelihood that you could have that situation is non-trivial.
Co-Chair Blackburn.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Coltrane, I want to make sure this bill has passed the Senate, but has not been over to the House side.
It's just passed the Senate Education Committee. So it's still got some more steps. I think it's been referred to the Appropriations Committee because there's a small appropriation, and one of the rules that they have for filing bills in the short session is the bill has to have an appropriation if it's a policy bill. So there's like $50,000 appropriated in the bill. So it's been referred to appropriations. And then if it passes that committee, it would then go to the full Senate and then move over to the House. So
For
this
the
is the
reason
first step.
that
So
I asked for clarity on it for myself is that schools are in the process now of hiring and retaining teachers for next year. And hopefully somebody will look at it and say, well, we need to move on this particular bill because of school districts, like I said, it's hiring now and extending and requesting.
right.
I don't know to whom I'm talking about to go over there and, hey, folks, we need to look at this seriously. And that's all. I was just concerned about that.
No, appreciate that. And the short session is short, so we have to stay on top of this one to get it moved as well. And so I know we've already had some conversations with some legislators in the House about this. We've also talked to some other legislators in the Senate, so making sure that this stays on their radar to hopefully get it across the finish line. So
Thank you. Resume, Mr. Coltrane.
great. The second bill was also in Senate Education and Higher Education on the 29th, so last week, and passed. This is House Bill 301. This bill actually started in the House and moved over to the Senate last year. So it's already been in the House once and now is in the Senate. It started off as a social media protections bill for minors under age 16. So it would have required that social media companies not allow students under the age of 16 to have a social media account, and then listed out a number of protections. The Senate Education and Higher Education Committee amended that bill, so they kept the social media protections, but then added in some requirements around safety and learning for artificial intelligence. It would require the state board to update our computer science standards by adopting content standards for instruction and AI. It would also require DPI to adopt or develop a model AI policy for school districts, and then would require school districts to adopt a policy by a certain date. It also would require DPI to develop a framework for evaluating artificial intelligence tools for use in classrooms and schools, and then would require DPI to partner with the Friday Institute on professional development for AI for teachers. There's other provisions too, but those are the main ones. Our team at DPI under Dr. Wren, we had gotten a request to provide some feedback on an AI bill. And so our team's been engaged with the legislature on this and has given feedback. I can say that a lot of this work our team has already started or is almost finished. And so this is something that would be a positive move, but is something that DPI can definitely manage. We've been continuing to give feedback as this moves. So similar to the other bill, this bill just passed the committee. It will have to go eventually past the Senate and then would go back to the House for concurrence since it's changed. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it as well. Any questions on this bill? Great. So of course, we'll continue to keep an eye on bills. We're expecting over the next couple of weeks that we'll start seeing a number of education-related bills move. Again, given that the short session is short, and so we'll continue to keep you updated on that. On the state budget, Governor Stein on April 21st, the first day of the short session, released his proposed budget. Wanted to share with you some of what's included in there around public education. He does propose an 11% average pay raise for teachers and instructional support personnel. And his proposed teacher salary schedule would get us to first in the Southeast in beginning teacher pay when you account for local supplements. He also removes in the current schedule when a teacher gets to year 15, their salary plateaus in the schedule. So he would remove, his proposal would remove the plateaus. It restores master's pay for teachers who are teaching in the subject area of their master's degree. It also includes a 5% average pay raise for principals and a 5% average pay raise for central office administrators and non-certified staff. Plus, it gives $1,000 one-time bonus for public school employees and state employees plus an additional $500 for employees who have a salary less than $75,000. So many, if not most, of our public school employees and our teachers would get a total of $1,500 bonus. And then it does include a moratorium on the Opportunity Scholarships program of both further expansion, and it eliminates the top 2 tiers of that program. So the highest income families would no longer receive the voucher, and it would put a moratorium on any new vouchers for the future. In terms of the DPI and the state board's priorities, the governor was very generous in his budget and included a number of things that that you requested, including expanding our Dibbles diagnostic for our early literacy initiative to grades 4 and 5, expanding professional development and support for literacy to grades 6 through 8. He did include, and we were very excited about this, implementing the exceptional children weighted funding model. It wasn't quite at the level that the board and DPI proposed, but it was pretty close at 63 million, which is about a 70% state share. He also included the funding requested for advanced teaching roles, both the salary supplements and the expanding grants, and then included about half of what was requested around the school health personnel. That I think would allow districts to purchase hire a couple hundred more nurses, counselors, social workers, and psychologists. In addition, he included the funding for federal E-rate match. With that increase, he included the funding that was requested for beginning teacher support program. Of course, you had a good conversation yesterday on that work. He included the funding we had requested for revising the limited English proficiency funding formula. He did not include the funding for the needs-based public school capital grant, the additional funding, but he did include a healthy investment of $115 million in the repair and renovation fund, which was one-time funds, but is a good investment there. And then he did include the funding for the new cooperative innovative high schools. Some of our ongoing priorities, he included the funding for the Transportation Information Management System. He did include funding to make school breakfast free for all students across the state, not just those who qualify. That's what the 85 million is for. He included 50 million to hire SROs for all middle schools. Our request was to make an appropriation or an allotment for all elementaries and middle schools, and he included an investment for middle schools. He did include your request for support for low-performing districts and a partial request for high-impact tutoring for low-performing school districts. Did not include the request for a math screener or the 2 positions in our legal team. Lastly, on the one-to-one device refresh, he did include $100 million non-recurring to help districts purchase new devices. He also included funding for school business systems modernization. The money for that is included in a reserve fund and is not specifically announced in the budget to help with contracting and RFP processes. He did include funding for the single sign-on upgrades and then for our DIT and Google backup server requirements. Some additional proposals that were in the governor's budget that were not part of our ask that I wanted to highlight. The governor included $30 million non-recurring, so one-time funds for a teacher supply stipend. This would provide a $300 tax-deductible stipend to every public school teacher in the state to purchase supplies and classroom materials. The governor noted that North Carolina teachers spend the second most out-of-pocket dollars of all teachers in the nation on classroom supplies. In addition, he proposed eliminating $5 million in funding for virtual charter schools for transportation services. So currently, remote charters receive a portion of all per pupil expenditures, including transportation. This would remove the funding that they receive for transportation for students who are fully virtual. They're obviously not needing to be transported anywhere. So $5 million would be cut from that. He also included the establishment of a school performance grade redesign pilot program. This was similar to his budget from last year, but of course that aligns with our accountability task force work as well. Lastly, some of the policy provisions, the non-budget provisions that were in his budget that are aligned with ours. He included the revisions to the community eligibility provision mill program incentive, which the DPI and the state board manage. There's over 150 schools that have used about $4 million of the $6 million in funding to expand to free breakfast and lunch for all students. And so these revisions would actually allow more schools to participate since we have some funds still available. He also included the sunsetting of the textbook commission, of course, the revisions to the LEP funding formula. He did include to fund statewide virtual charter schools at the statewide average per pupil expenditure, which was another request the board's made. He included allowing for a mid-year adjustment in supplemental funding for EC students based on the December 1 headcount. He also increased the share of administrative funds from the public school building capital fund for our school facilities team up to 2.5%. And then he did expand the definition of a qualifying school for the principal recruitment supplement to include the bottom 10% of all schools. Currently, it's at 5%. We've heard over the last couple of years that we have a lot of money left on the table and not enough schools signing up. And so you have requested that we expand that definition, and his proposal was at 10%. So any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Coltrane? Thank you, Mr. Coltrane, for your report.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Blackburn. We will now move to the Educator Excellence Committee, which is co-chaired by Dr. Oxendine and Dr. Mason, and I'll turn to Dr. Oxendine.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Yes, joining me in the co-chair responsibility is leading the Educator Excellence Committee. I like that name, by the way, is Dr. Janet Mason. If you recall, last month, Drs. Andrew Seiberg and Mac Dewey's, the Director of Graduate Programs in School Administration Leadership Studies at Lynchburg University, presented the discussion of an application of that university to receive initial authorization from the State Board of Education to be an educator preparation program. Dr. Dewey's did share with us that they have already established a history in preparing students from North Carolina in their program, so they wanted to move forward with the application to receive that initial authorization, and that takes place under GS 115C295, authorizes this board to confer that authorization if an EPP program has not generated sufficient data to meet performance standards. In the case of this university, that particular standard has been met because they do have the accreditation by the Council for the Accreditation of Educator Prep Programs. We know it informally as CAPE. There are 7 standards. We've never talked about the CAPE standards. I'm not going to give you a boring lecture on them, but I will name them. Those 7 standards are content pedagogy, clinical preparation and practice. Another way of thinking about that is student teaching or internships, candidate quality and selectivity. You think about that as recruitment and admissions, satisfaction with preparation. We think about that as the employee or the employer satisfaction survey, quality assurance improvement, fiscal administrative capacity, and a record of compliance with Title IV of the Higher Education Act. And I see that Dr. Tomberlin is here to add a bit more to that. You're not? Okay, then I'll keep going. So the University of Lynchburg is going to, as part of their EPP proposal, 14 degree programs. And those programs either are toward a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts in elementary education, secondary education, and then the K-12 area. And in the K-12 area, we would have like our EC programs. And also, I noticed, just going a quick review last night, reading education is one of those areas that they will be preparing students from North Carolina, students from North Carolina, students from North Carolina. And that certification would be a K-12 reading education. The thing is, we've got to get our school systems, our systems with the readiness and maybe the funding to hire reading specialists. And going through the Lynchburg program, they could get a degree in reading education. That's wonderful. And also would be a degree in mathematics, biology, chemistry, academically or intellectually gifted. That's good to know that the university is going to offer degrees in those areas, because some of our universities, both private and state, have so few numbers majoring in those areas that, and I certainly don't have the number of schools that have eliminated those programs, but some have. So the University of Lynchburg would be preparing students in those areas, mathematics, biology, chemistry, and AIG. And also the University of Lynchburg they've also in their application will have a licensure only in the principalship, but those students would come to the university with perhaps a master's degree or working toward that. So the recommendation is that we approve that application. Any questions, comments? Dr. Tomberlin, anything to add?
Just a point of clarification that as an EPP, as a North Carolina approved EPP, Lynchburg would be offering residency licenses in those areas. If a candidate does a traditional program, all those wonderful programs that you indicated, if they did that under what we consider the traditional route, those candidates would come in under out of state. We would authorize them or approve them for licensure in North Carolina through the out of state mechanism. What Lynchburg is doing is it being approved as a alternative or residency path provider.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Oxendine. The Educator Excellence Committee is bringing us one item for consideration today. Any questions on that? Seeing none, we'll move to the final committee of the day, which is Business Operations, co-chaired by Vice Chair Duncan and Mr. Blackburn. I believe I'm turning to Vice Chair Duncan.
Yes, although to preview future highlights, look forward to Mr. Blackburn next month. Mr. Blackburn and I lead this committee and co-chair it, and we have a number of items today, which we will try to go through as quickly as we reasonably can. Under BizOp 1, we have 9 contracts for consideration today. The first one's approval of a contract amendment for college admissions and workplace readiness assessment. And I'm going to ask Dr. Maher to come and give a brief explanation of this contract and what its importance is for our work.
Yes, good morning. So this is a 1-year extension of our contract with ACT for ACT, work keys, and pre-ACT, and the cost is the same as it was last year. We're doing a 1-year extension because we've been working through the process of RFP, and the RFP is not quite ready. So again, 1-year extension.
And we anticipate not having to come back with a 1-year extension next year. We hopefully will get through the process.
That is correct.
Any questions on this contract? All right, thank you. We will go to our next contract, the kindergarten entry assessment and pre-kindergarten literacy assessment. Have Cynthia Barber down for this contract. This is a contract service in which we do every year our assessments for kindergarten and pre-kindergarten literacy. These are important assessments as we look forward to the work that we do with respect to reading instruction, among other things. Yes, thank you. And so that is, it's an important contract for us. And Cynthia, you were here in person yesterday, and today you're virtual. So if you want to give a brief review of this contract.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Currently, DPI is a third party to a DHHS contract with this vendor to provide the TS Gold assessment for approximately 16,800 children who are served in public school operated classrooms that are not participating in the NC Pre-K program. DHHS provides the assessment and curriculum materials for all the NC Pre-K classrooms. DHHS has requested that we combine our contracts by allowing them to join the DPI contract through this amendment. This amendment would allow DHHS to join DPI's contract as a third party combining the two agencies' contracts by adding the DHHS scope to provide curriculum and gold assessment resources for all North Carolina pre-K programs. Amendment 1 also includes the gold assessment for approximately 16,800 students in public school classrooms not participating in NC pre-K. Under this amendment, the vendor will invoice DHHS directly for its portion of the contract, and DHHS will pay the vendor directly. The vendor will invoice DPI for the students served in public school classrooms not participating in NC pre-K, so there will be no need for an interagency transfer of funds.
Thank you. Any questions on this? It's as we can see now, it's a contract jointly with DHHS, and so that's the big difference this year. But we each pay our own share. So
that's correct.
Any questions? All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Barber.
Thank you.
Our next item is our third contract is school replacement for wreckers. We could do buses, we do trucks, and now we do wreckers. And so Kevin Harrison, I think, is going to be able to join us virtually, but so I'll wait and see if he's available.
I'm here.
Very good. Good morning.
Good morning. This contract is for the replacement of school system wreckers, which are the vehicles used to tow school buses and other vehicles if they break down. This is a 3-year contract with 2 optional 1-year extensions and a total cost not to exceed $9.3 million over 5 years. The initial unit cost is about $296,000 for manual transmissions or $302,000 for automatic transmissions. But the wrecker the wrecker replacement is covered by school bus and service vehicle replacement funds. This isn't state public school funds, separate funds. But half the cost of the replacement wrecker is returned to this fund from LEA capital funds. And the purpose of that cost share is to assure that the vehicle will provide significant value added to the school district. If a district does not have many school buses to tow, then they probably don't need a wrecker.
Any questions on this? Not surprisingly, this is mostly a contract used by our larger districts, but some districts who have larger geographical size are also in need of this contract. Not hearing any, we'll go on then to the next one, which is a contract relating to our statewide unique identification system. And our Jeremiah Jackson, our Senior Director for Office of Technology Services, who has been with us and has done a great job. And we all want to thank the work of you and your staff in setting up this meeting remotely and even with a change of location in the meeting. So thank you for that great work. But now you're here to report on this contract.
Thank you, sir. Our unique identifier system is used by all of our DPI systems where we need to associate a number with a person, right? So we have unique identifiers for students. We have unique identifiers for staff. These numbers follow those students with them if they change school districts. We use them inside of our reporting systems, our student information systems. That's how they log in to access all state resources. This is a contract or a company that we've been working with for quite some time. And it's not only used by DPI. So this system is also used by DHHS. It's also used by the community college system and our UNC college system, as you know, when we're transferring transcripts, et cetera, et cetera. Our DHHS partners also help pay for their portion of this contract. So as students or people are entered into the DHHS system for services, if they do not have a unique identifier, they're assigned one at that time, which means that approximately about 80% of our kindergarten and pre-kindergarten students come into our environment already with a unique identifier, which is pretty amazing. This contract's for a total of $1.4 million for 3 years. The first year is going to be about $452,000, and there's a 3% increase each year. This company has not increased their price with us for a very long time, and so we feel like that is a reasonable amount. Any questions?
Jeremiah, thank you. Very good report.
Thank you.
Our next contract, our 5th contract, is Cedars Longitudinal NC Pre-K through 13 Data eScholar information. Have Rob Dietrich here, I believe. Yes, there he is.
Good
to
morning.
report on this. Good morning.
This is the same vendor that Jeremiah just finished with, eScholar, and this is where we report all our federal and state reporting for our longitudinal data store, as well as it goes to EdFacts to ensure that our reporting done there is correct at the federal level, as well as we share data with the North Carolina longitudinal data system per executive order from the governor through DIT with this contract. This is also a 3-year contract. The first year beginning July 1, 2026. First year is $373,000, and it has a 3% increase, same as the previous with Jeremiah.
Any questions on this contract? And I think it's one thing to highlight on this contract, just sometimes we need to ask why we need each of these contracts. This is pretty essential to the federal reporting requirements that we have.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Our next contract is a contract amendment for the American Association of School Administrators. And this is about portrait of graduate. So that used to be Battelle for Kids. I think we've all heard that phrase. It's been apparently purchased by American Association of School Administrators, and so we have a new name that's associated with it. And it involves mostly federal funds here. And Sean Kellogg, our Senior Director of the Office of Research and Promising Practices, here to report on this.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Duncan. And that's absolutely correct. This is actually the 5th amendment to an existing contract with Battelle for Kids. Primary purpose for this new amendment is actually to transfer the contract from Battelle for Kids over to the American Association for School Administrators. They recently acquired Battelle for Kids, including all the intellectual property and including all the staffing that's necessary to carry out our competitive grant for statewide assessments that's funded by the Department of Education for our Portrait of a Graduate Skills for the Future work. The amendment extends the contract to September 30th of 2027 from June 30th to help us carry out and close out the grant. There's no changes to staffing from the previous approval. There's no changes to pricing, no changes to scope. All the deliverables are the same and all the timelines are the same as well too. There's just one quick thing to note. It's about 1.4 million as part of the Department of Ed allocation for formerly Battelle for Kids, now AASA. About $700,000 of that goes directly to schools and districts. It's to help pay for stipends for teachers' participation in the grant program, because we do ask quite a bit of them over the semester, and we want to make sure they're compensated for that time and effort. The remaining half of that, about $700K, that goes to professional learning that Battelle facilitates and leads for our educators and our teachers, as well as convening the community and schools and districts for sort of statewide, community-wide awareness of what we're doing with the program, and also to get their input on helping us modify and adapt the program to meet the community's needs.
Thank you. Any questions on this contract? And again, this one continues till September 30th next year, which will then be the end of the federal funding for the program, and this is required for the reporting on that.
That's correct.
All right, not seeing any. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
We now move for the last 3 contracts to the Vanessa Wren section of our program. The first one is the Friday Institute School Connectivity Initiative for 2026 through 2029. Mr. Mayo, welcome. Yeah.
Good morning. This is an intent to continue our contract with the Friday Institute. This kind of connects back to our Tuesday's work about the infrastructures that make everything work. With this contract, this continues to give us deep analysis of our bandwidth across the state to make sure that we're maximizing our dollars. So they provide toolkits for us, as well as policy and research to move forward, and any emerging technology trends that we see too as we move forward. If you recall, back in October in our school connectivity report, we're almost getting about $4 back for every state dollar that is spent. So we want to continue to do these services with the Friday Institute. It's a huge value add, not only to us at the state level, but also to our PSUs across the state as well.
Very good. Everyone knows here, I think that E-rate's very important in terms of savings for us. So are there any questions about this important contract? Not seeing any, we move on. Now we move to the Vanessa Wren section. Our 8th item of contract is for Know Before security awareness training. And
Yes, thank you, Vice
Wren.
Chair. Know is a contract that we use to provide services to all of our schools. It is used to provide cybersecurity training, privacy trainings, and also phishing simulations. And this is important because around 70% of our cyber attacks come through a phishing simulation. This certainly helps our schools and train our staff. This contract is used by 82% of our LEAs, and about 15% of our charter schools are using this service very actively. And it is a 2-year contract for a total cost of $1.1 million, which is about $560,000 per year. This vendor is also named in legislation, but it is a very important tool for our schools.
Thank you for that report. And as we all know, cybersecurity has become very important as we've seen headlines over the past year and recently again. It's important to note that this training is very helpful to us so that DPI information is not subject of having a gap that someone could exploit. Unfortunately, some vendors we've have had some gaps that have been exploited. So that's something that we are then having to deal with. But to be clear, I think we should make clear that these are not gaps in our system to this point. So we now move on, unless there are any questions on that. We now move on to our last contract, the Friday Institute, again, a cybersecurity contract.
Again, this supports all the work that we talked about on Tuesday, and this is a contract with the Friday Institute to provide cyber hygiene and cyber training for our schools. And this is a partnership with the Friday Institute. This is a 1-year contract with 2 optional years. The 1-year cost is $649,720. What this does for us, it provides us continuous support for our schools to have a partner for tabletop exercises, training and incident response. One of the most exciting pieces of work coming out of this contract is development of new tools to help prevent cyber attacks. And so the infrastructure lab over at the Friday Institute, led by Ray Zeiss, him and his team are developing many tools to help us prevent cyber attacks on our surfaces at our schools. And in addition to that, they've also been a great partner in helping us monitor our current systems that we have in place.
Thank you. Any questions on this aspect of cybersecurity for this contract?
Thank you.
Thanks very much. We now move to BizOp 2, which is our second action on first read. And we have Jay Johnson, our program manager for Office of Golden Leaf Schools, for a very important announcement about approval for the selected schools. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Green, board members and advisors, and thank you for your time this morning. Today, we are bringing forward a recommendation for approval of schools to join Cohort 2 of the Personalized Competency-Based Education Cohort within the Golden Leaf Schools Initiative. This request builds directly on the progress and context that were shared yesterday by my colleagues Rachel and Cole. So I will keep the overview brief and we'll focus primarily on the selection process and recommendation before you today. As a brief reminder, this initiative directly advances the Achieving Educational Excellence strategic plan and is tightly aligned to Pillar 1, preparing each student for their next phase in life. Because the initiative sits within the Office of District and School Support Services, our work is grounded in the division's purpose to ensure strong teaching and learning in every classroom, every day. Broader goal, next slide, please. Oh, thank you. The broader goal is to establish a scalable, evidence-based model for school improvement in rural North Carolina. This includes not only strengthening classroom instruction, but also ensuring that schools have the systems, leadership support, and resources needed to sustain that improvement over time. Next slide, please. Long-term, this work is intended to develop a replicable turnaround model for low-performing schools position participating districts as models of innovation, and ensure that students are both academically prepared and connected to career pathways aligned to their regional workforce needs. And if you'll hang on to that slide right there, please. Thank you. For cohort 2, the model builds on the foundations established in cohort 1. So participating schools will receive the Marzano's High Reliability Schools resources and professional development, the career development resources and professional development as well, and targeted incentives to support successful implementation at the school and district level. Slide, please. Thank you. The selection process followed a structured and transparent timeline that closely mirrored the first cohort. So applications opened in December and closed in February, followed by a 3-tiered review process over the next several weeks. Final recommendations were then reviewed by executive leadership at DPI, as well as the Golden Leaf Foundation, in preparation for today's request. Next slide, please. Thank you. Eligibility and selection criteria were identical to the first cohort, so districts were required to be located in a rural, persistently Tier 1 or Tier 2 county, demonstrate clear superintendent commitment, identify a dedicated implementation coordinator at the district level, and for this cohort, they needed to identify a middle school prepared to begin at level 3 of the HRS progression. These criteria ensured that selected schools are positioned to engage deeply in the work from the outset. Next slide, please. Thank you. And one more. The review process was designed to be both rigorous and fair. It included an initial eligibility screening built into the application itself, a Tier 1 review of written applications, followed by the Tier 2 interview process to assess readiness for implementation, and then the Tier 3 executive review to validate those recommendations. Each stage added a different lens to ensure a well-rounded evaluation, and during Tier 1, applications were redacted prior to review to make sure that we were minimizing bias. And then during the interviews, they were conducted by a structured committee process to better understand each school's readiness and capacity. Final scores were then combined, so the written and interview components together to have those final scores, and then those were reviewed by the executive level leadership before the recommendations were finalized for today. To ensure transparency and auditability, we maintained comprehensive documentation throughout the process, including original and redacted applications, individual and consensus scoring forms, interview scoring and calculation records, as well as that final rank ordered score sheet. Next slide, please. We also implemented several safeguards to ensure fairness and consistency, including the standardized rubrics across all stages of the process, clear guidance and sample materials for all applicants, independent scoring with checks for significant variance, and alignment to established grant selection practices. Additionally, the process was reviewed internally by both DPI leadership and Golden Leaf Foundation partners. At this time, we are presenting the proposed list of selected schools. Go to one more slide, please. The recommended schools are North Davie Middle School, Davie County Schools, Overhills Middle School, Harnett County Schools, Rockingham County Middle School, Rockingham County Schools, and West McDowell Middle School, McDowell County Schools. During the selection process, these schools demonstrated excellent understanding of the goals of the initiative and strong readiness to begin at level 3 of the HRS framework, based on the criteria and review process described. Based on that process, we are requesting approval to move forward with the recommended schools for PCBE cohort number 2. Upon approval, we will proceed with onboarding and implementation planning with the selected schools. With that, happy to take any questions.
All right, this is indeed a great step as we continue with this wonderful grant and the work that's being done, which we have heard about yesterday. A lot of further information. Are there any questions or comments about this? Yes, Dr.
Thank you,
Archibald.
Vice Chair. Yes, I do have a quick question. If you could just briefly tell me what the Marzano level 3, what does that school look like in terms of a level 3? What makes it a 3?
Absolutely. I'm probably going to pass that off to my director. She will probably be able to put it into better words, but
Okay, that's fine.
thank you very much.
Perfect.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. So level 1 is the safe, supportive, and collaborative environment. Level 2 is effective teaching in every classroom. And then level 3 is the guaranteed and viable curriculum piece. So levels 1 and 2, so a school that has strong foundations and structures in place at levels 1 and 2, we would see a comprehensive behavior support system. There would be effective PLC processes in place. There would also be effective structures and systems in place in terms of monitoring instruction. So walkthroughs, how teachers get feedback from either an instructional coach or the principal, or how they facilitate peer walkthroughs. And then level 3 is where these schools are really going to be focusing their efforts, which is that guaranteed and viable curriculum. So they will begin the work around proficiency scales. So that is looking at the North Carolina Standard Course of Study, breaking down and really deeply understanding those standards and putting those into a proficiency scale so that students, teachers, parents are really clear about what every student is expected to know and be able to do at a level of mastery for that particular student.
So the report card grade is a moot point. Like that's an A, B, or C school, or is that a moot point?
In terms of the selection process or in terms of
As of a 3, being a 3, level 3, does that matter?
No.
No, okay. And then is there a goal to get to, is there something beyond 3? Like, there's a goal to get to 4?
Yes. So the goal is for them to move towards level 4, which is standards referenced reporting. And then level 5 is the competency-based education, which is the top level. So we're working towards level 3 and 4, 5 if they can get there, but it's a big shift to get to full competency-based education implementation.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Very
ma'am.
thorough.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions or comments? Not hearing any, thank you very much. Great announcement. We now go to our action items. BizOp 3 is the Advanced Teaching Roles Request for Proposals. You will recall Leah Sutton presented this as a discussion meeting in our last item at our last meeting. She is with us virtually and available for any questions. I don't believe there are any significant changes to the request since it was discussed last meeting. And Leah may not be available. Are we trying to get her?
Oh, I'm here. Good morning, everyone. No changes from last month.
Very good. Anybody had any further questions arise that Leah can answer on this? All right. Not seeing any. Thank you very much and look forward to having the RFP go out. Our next item, BizOp 4, is a rules update, readoption on salary and benefits. And Ryan Collins, as always, is here to report on us. And I was wondering if you were the return of Michael Jordan during his baseball years, or was it his?
No, this is the basketball years. Although I haven't won any championships for rulemaking yet, so if you want to create that award. But yes, final time for the day. These are rules related to public school employee benefits. They're coming back for final adoption. There's 6 existing rules that are up for readoption by June 30th of this year. The board voted on these back in January. These include a revision to the 6 rules that need to be readopted and adoption of 2 new rules. There haven't been any substantive changes to the benefits rules that the board initially saw. And actually, I think these might have come in February, not January. But I did want to draw your attention to the first rule that's in your packet. This is 06C.0101. This was originally part of the licensure rules bundle that the state board proposed back in December, and those have already gone through the rulemaking process. The board adopted the rest of those rules back in March, but we had held this one back because it needed to have some additional work done on it. This is a definitions rule that defines several employment-related terms. The section of the administrative code to which these definitions apply currently only has 2 other rules in it. It's a separate section from the rest of these benefits rules. One of those has to do with the qualifications of teachers. That was in the licensure rule packet. And then the other is the school nurses rule that you all have seen several times in the past year. Eventual plan is to codify many of the other state board policies related to employment classifications into this section, but that's a little farther down our to-do list. So for right now, we're just trying to update this definition section and avoid losing this particular rule to expiration. As far as why we was held back, just to provide a little more context, and we wanted to make sure that certain terms that were used in this rule, as well as the definitions rule for the benefits section, were in alignment. So terms like full-time and part-time employee, we wanted to make sure all of those terms, as they're used in different places, aligned. There was also a discussion about defining the terms classified employee and certified employee. These are terms that are used, I would say, somewhat loosely around the field, and it's not entirely clear that DPI and the PSUs are all on the same page about what those terms mean. We just, but we're at this point, we don't feel like we are at a settled definition that we're prepared to bring you all to codify into the rules. So we pulled that out of the final version, and that's what you see in the highlighted text on the screen. We're going to continue to have discussions with the School Boards Association and other interested entities to try to arrive at an agreed upon definition. But for now, we just want to make sure that this rule can get through the process and revisit it at the appropriate time. So that's why you have this extra one in here. You've seen it before, just it was part of a different set of rules initially, and wanted to be clearly articulate why that was being included today.
All right, those are the updates on that policy. We covered the entire policy last meeting. Are there any questions or comments about either the entire policy or specifically these updates or changes as we get ready to vote on it? All right, not seeing any. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it, as always, your work on these rules, which is challenging. Thank you. We now have a couple of discussion items. The first one is McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act subgrants. We have Alex Charles here, our Senior Director of Office of Federal Programs, to report on these grant awards.
All right, good morning. So I have the privilege of bringing our next cohort of our homeless state grants for the McKinney-Vento Act. So on slide 2, you'll see how this supports our Pillar 4, which is ensuring healthy and safe and secure learning environments. And digging deeper into that, really focused on the attendance and really trying to help make sure that we're reducing chronic attendance, but also strengthening effective attendance. So on slide 3, you're going to see some historical data for homelessness within North Carolina. And what you're going to see here is you're going to see a steady increase really across the many years, with the only dip being during the COVID years when we were remote. So there really wasn't a lot of effective data gathering during those years. And so we do see a little bit of a drop off. But as you see, for right now, at the midpoint of this current year, we're at 22,604 students. So if you think about that, the midpoint, which means if we continue that same trajectory, we're more than likely going to surpass the 39,248 students that we had identified for last year. So again, that just continues to climb. So these funds come from the McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Assistance Act from the Department of Education. So on the next slide, you're going to see how these funds really have a three-pronged focus. We're here to facilitate enrollment. We're here to support attendance. We're also here to support success in schools. As we know, students who are experiencing homelessness, one of the biggest things they're facing is instability. And so what this grant is trying to do is provide a set of funds to help provide as much stability as we possibly can in that student's life. Trying to maintain that home school of origin, trying to maintain some transportation supports for them, as well as some external, even outside of education supports for those students. So in the next slide, you're going to see that the criteria to apply for these grants is you have to have at least 50 identified students if you're a single PSU, or if you want to join into a consortium, you can. And so a consortium would have to have at least 50 amongst all the schools that are joining together. So 50 is that magic number to be able to apply for these grants. We build these grants on a 5-tier funding platform, which basically looks at how many students experiencing homelessness do you have. We base it on the year prior school data so that we have a full year to look at. And so we have 5 tiers of funding depending on the level of students that you have identified. So on the next slide. So this really talks about what are the purpose of these funds. And so what we don't want are these funds to begin to supplant programs that are already in place. And so the intent of these funds are to help support and bolster and build upon the supports that are already in place within our PSUs. So really looking at, and then when we're looking at quality of application, we're also looking at identified needs on the needs assessment from the different PSUs as they have submitted their applications. So on slide 9, of course, with anything federal, there's always some rules we have to follow. So this sort of outlines some of the assurances or provisions that go into governing how those funds are being used within the PSU who are awarded the funds. So on slide 10, you're going to see that we did receive 73 applications this year. And so this shows the breakdown of the regions in which the applications were received. And so we received 73 this year. And on the next slide, we are proposing to fund 45 of those 73. So that puts us at $3,180,000 of funding, which is actually a little bit of an increase percentage-wise to our grant than what we've done in the past. Really trying to push more money out so that we can definitely get money where it needs to be. And so within your board package, you actually have a list of all those 45 being recommended for funding. But I also want to highlight that even PSUs who are not recommended for funding are still getting support from our homeless education program. So on this slide, you're seeing a list of many activities, many supports, many trainings, many resources that are provided to all PSUs, whether they get the 3-year homeless education grant or not. Because as we know, every PSU in our state has students who are experiencing homelessness. We wish we had funds to give to every single PSU in our state, but the funds just don't quite go that far. But we do try to serve everyone within our state when it comes to the services, resources, and support. So are there any questions? Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Two questions, Dr. Charles. And I often have them when we're talking about McKinney-Vento. Number one, how are homeless students defined? Because we have students who have like transient housing, but not an address of their, like, how are we defining homeless?
So usually in McKinney-Vento, you're looking at someone who does not have a stable home. They don't have the same place they're going home to every single night. So that they're displaced. They are not within a stable home environment. So that can be, you can look at people who don't have a house at all. Some are doubled up. There are lots of different situations, and there is a line there.
Yeah.
And so it really is sort of a case by case, because you can be doubled up and still be stable. But then there's sometimes where being doubled up, you're not stable.
Exactly. That's the question Ms. Kendasu and I had, because we know that there are students who you might get 3 weeks at this auntie's house and 2 weeks at that auntie's house and 3 weeks with a grandmother. But those, and we have students who are being split up from their siblings and being housed, but they do not as a unit have a collect. And we were wondering if those students count. And number two, how is homelessness reported? Like, how are the schools aware? Because we know that, like, in not all schools, we don't have a social worker. So how are we getting the number to know?
So every PSU does have an identified homeless liaison. And the homeless liaison is charged with understanding all the ins and outs of McKinney-Vento. They're responsible for counting, tracking, and ensuring that those numbers are reported up to us at the state level.
So I guess my question is that being reported, like, am I a teacher going to my admin saying, I'm concerned that this child doesn't have stable housing, or are we counting on parents to report that? Because that's my concern of who might get lost in, like, who's going to say, I don't have a house? How are we finding these students?
It's a little bit of both. It's sort of a combination. So you do have some parents that are very much advocates and in search of support. But you also have a lot of times it is identified through teachers knowing situations, going through the counselors, going up to the district of the PSU's homeless liaison.
Any other questions or thoughts on this? Chair Dave.
Of the 28 applicants that were not able to fund, how many students experiencing homelessness are in those 28?
I would have to go pull those numbers for you and get them to you. Although I do think, I don't have them like a total number right now, but I do think in your board materials, I do think we do have everyone who did apply. And I do think in there, it does have a listing of their homeless count within there, but I can add that up and get you an exact number.
Dr. Oxen.
Just a quick question. A few minutes ago, and this is a very important point that you have to monitor, I'm sure, is making sure that McKinney-Vento doesn't supplant. What would be a federal program that could be supplantable?
So typically, with these being federal funds, federal and federal sort of work very well together.
Uh-huh.
It's more along the lines of if you already have a state established or a local established support fund, if you already have churches coming together, if you already have some different support groups that are already providing certain things, you really want to use this money to build on top of that, as opposed to replacing that, and then using those money in some other ways. So that's really the biggest thing. But this grant works very much hand in hand with Title I. With Title I, there's also a set aside to support our homeless students. And so there's a lot of federal that come sort of braided
So they
together.
couple well together?
They do couple well together.
Okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? I make one last comment on behalf of Mr. Blackburn and myself. Both of us feel a very close kinship, if you will, to this program and our homeless students in the state. And if you stop and take a thought, it's almost 3% of all the students, public school students, are defined as to being in a homeless situation. Those are our most needy students in terms of our attention, care, support. So what we do here is very important in terms of how we serve, and can legitimately say we try to serve all of our students, because for those who have the least, we owe the most, and these are the students who have the least. So I would suggest, and this board has always had this absolute large heart about our homeless students, but we honestly can't do enough to get them to a place where they can have a better life. So we thank you for all the work that you're doing there, and we encourage in all ways we continue to expand upon that work to help these students. And we thank all the local administrators who give so openly and so generously to help these students, because we know there's so much of that out there. But we need to have a stable support line for these students and to try to help them get to the place we want them to get. So thank you. And I think I'm expressing the real thoughts of the board here when I say how important these students are to us. So thank you for the work. Our last item is Biz Op 6. It's a discussion item for the report to the North Carolina General Assembly on opportunity scholarships. It's a financial impact report. Rob Dietrich, Dr. Dietrich, our Senior Director of Enterprise Data and Reporting, is here to provide background on this report.
Thank you. And Amanda is here with me as well from School Business Services. We are here to present the 25-26 Opportunity Scholarship Report. If I could go to the next slide. When you look at the statutory requirements, we highlighted what we think is critical to remember with this report. We are here to present that we are annually, as Department of Public Instruction, tasked to give the cumulative financial difference between Opportunity Scholarship Grant Award and the average state per pupil allocation for students enrolled in public school units. I think it's important to remember it is a cumulative total amount. Next slide. As you look at that amount and the students that are used in the calculation, it's important to define prior public school enrollee. For this 25-26 report, these are students who received an opportunity scholarship beginning in 24-25 school year, who enrolled in any public school for the majority of either their first or second month prior to receiving the scholarship. I added that note kind of there at the bottom to make sure that it's understood that that means that students from the 24-25 scholarship year who are still enrolled in private school are included in this year, and we will see a breakdown of that in a few slides. Next slide, please. Also, part of the statutory requirements is the amount provided to each student is based on their family income as a percentage of federal free and reduced lunch, and that is broken down into 4 different tiers: Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4. Amanda provided the numbers for what those tiers would have been for this reporting year, and you see there Tier 1 breakdown, the Tier 2 breakdown, financial breakdown for Tier 3 and Tier 4. Do you have anything you want to add there? Are you good? Okay. Next slide. For the methodology we receive from the NCSEAA, they provide a data set of every student who received an opportunity scholarship for the 25-26 fall and spring semesters, along with the pertinent scholarship data. We also match student demographic data as well as address information on those fields there: student first name, last name, address, date of birth, and county of residence. This allows us with high confidence. We do use UID as well if it was provided by NCSEAA, but this allows us with high confidence to match the data that we feel very confident about the data. Next slide. This is an explanation of reporting years so that you can see, if you look in reporting year 1, which was last year, was the 5,955 students we reported. But if you look in reporting year 2, which is this year that we were reporting on, you can see that 4,049 of them were from 24-25 fall, and then 370 of them we knew about last year, but they received it in the spring, so they get moved to this reporting year, in reporting year 2, and you have 7,833 new recipients who were prior year enrollees for 12,252 total out of the 106,704 total recipients, which is about 11.5% of those that were provided. Next slide. If you look at the reinvestment calculation, based on statute, the reinvestment calculation for future year 26-27 is $35,751,409. If you go to the next slide, please, you will see the breakdown based on 24-25 year. Last year was a $10 million reinvestment, and this year you add the $25,658,746 to that amount, is where you get the $35.7 million reinvestment into the school system. Say again. Oh, and we did not receive that $10 million from last year. And then the board had questions last year, so we included some of those questions in the following slides about who were the prior enrollees who received the opportunity scholarships. So what you see by this breakdown, you have elementary received over 50%, and then middle school was the second highest, and high schools were the third highest. And you'll notice, though, that if you get inside that data, grade 6 and grade 7 and grade 4 were the highest grade levels. So you see a little more movement at the middle school level with opportunity scholarships, as well as the lowest grade levels were kindergarten, grade 12, and grade 11, which is similar to other data we have that show that those upper level students don't move very much. Next slide, please. In here, what you'll see is that when you look at the tiers, tier 2 was the highest chunk that received the opportunity scholarship, followed by tier 1, tier 3, and the smallest percentage of tier 4 at 11%. Next slide. If you look at the student groups here, what you'll find is that the top 3 student groups that received opportunity scholarships that were prior year enrollees were students with disabilities, without disabilities at 87.6%, not English learners were 95%, and not economically disadvantaged were 61.8%. And then if you looked at race and ethnicity, the top 3 recipients were white at 57%, Black African American at 17.6%, and Hispanic at 13.1%. And our final slide is if you look at the distribution of counties where those prior enrollees came from, 50.6% came from these counties that are on the screen, to include Wake County, Mecklenburg County, Cumberland County, Pitt County, and Durham County. And that concludes our report, unless you have any questions.
All right, there may be some questions, and let me open the floor for any thoughts. Dr. Oxendine.
Yes, if you'll go back to a couple, maybe 3 or 4 slides, you were, there was a number, 730 students, and I think that left the public, went into private in the spring.
636 in the spring.
Okay. Were those 630, whatever that number, were they counted?
This year they were counted this year. They received.
But it's not a duplicate count, is it?
No, it is not.
Okay, that's what I wanted
No,
to be
so
sure.
sorry. The 370 students who were in public school in the fall of 24-25, but were in Opportunity Scholarship private school in the spring of 24-25, were not counted last year, but were counted this year. The 636 students, those students were in fall 25-26 in public school and only received the opportunity scholarship in spring of this year. They were not counted in this report because now that we're on funding in arrears, they will generate funding for public schools next year because they were in that month 1 and month 2 in public school. So those 636 students are not in the count for this year. If they stay in private school and continue to receive the opportunity scholarship, they would be counted in next year's report.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, the timing on this report is all kinds of complicated, but
136, assuming they stay, they continue to get it, will be in there next year. So those that we just want to make sure you knew that that was where for next year.
All right, so it wasn't a duplicate count.
Correct. That's correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Kamens.
So just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, by statute, we should, in some way, form, or fashion, $35 million should be supporting traditional public schools?
that is, the statute said it is the intent of the General Assembly to appropriate those funds to public schools.
Could they say that any money that they give to us this year would include that, or does it have to be new spent? I mean, like, or is that even clear?
I mean, I think they can say whatever they want.
Right.
The language in the law says that it's their intent to create a public school reinvestment fund and to put the funds that are identified in this report into that fund. As of now, there has been no money that has been put into that fund.
Just as an FYI, there is available a chart that shows the opportunity scholarship dollar amount that has gone to each county, obviously not to the public schools, but to anyone who is resident of that county. And if anyone's interested, I'm happy to share that because it's quite interesting.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? All right. Thank you for the report. When is it due? May 15th? June. Okay. So we'll have this come back. So let me just say, anybody, as they studied, has additional questions, this will come back next month before we conclude it as an action item.
Yes, sir.
So feel ready to share those with us. Thank you. Last items we have here are updates on contracts. I have not received any questions on executed contracts report, nor has John, or planned contracts report, or on requested updates about the monthly budget report, all of which you have received and had the chance to review. So unless there are any, and I pause only momentarily here, we are completed with our report. Thank you, Chair Davis.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duncan. BizOp's bringing us 4 items for consideration today. Any questions on those 4? Seeing none, we have 1 item in the chair's report, and this concerns a candidate for joining our legal team, and I'll turn to our general counsel, Ms. Tiffany Lucas, for this item.
Good morning, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Duncan, Superintendent Green, board members and advisors. I am very pleased to share with you that we have selected a candidate to fill the Assistant General Counsel position. The selected candidate is Adam Miller. Mr. Miller is a proud graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill for his undergraduate degree, and a proud graduate of the Campbell School of Law for his JD. Mr. Miller has experience in private practice. He has experience in litigating business disputes. Currently, he is with the North Carolina School Boards Association as a staff attorney. He has extensive experience in working with local school boards of education to develop policies, among other things. Pending your approval, of course, we are very excited to have Mr. Miller join our team, our legal team, in early June. And I am happy to answer any questions you may have about Mr. Miller.
Questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, Ms. Lucas, thank you for bringing us such a fine candidate to join our team, and we look forward to having Mr. Miller be part of our legal counsel team.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would note for the record that Mr. Hall, by virtue of his service on the School Board Association, is recusing himself from this item. All right. We'll now move to voting on any items requiring action from your committee reports. A thorough discussion and report was provided on each item, including our respective consent items. And as I mentioned, the last item presented, the hiring of a State Board of Education attorney, will be handled as a separate vote. Or is there a request to remove any other item from our agenda for separate voting? Seeing none, I request a motion to approve the following. State Board of Education draft meeting minutes of April 1st and 2nd, 2026. State Board of Education called meeting draft minutes for April 9th, 2026. The Student and School Excellence Committee items 1 through 7. The Parent, Community, and School Support Committee, item 1. The Educator Excellence Committee, item 1. The BizOp Committee, items 1 through 4. And the 30 limited license and 6 initial professional license request discussed in closed session last evening. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Oxendine. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Keenan. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, Mr. Fafaria?
Dr. Oxendine?
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Hall? Dr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Treasurer Briner?
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Hunt?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Chair Davis?
Yes, the motion carries. Next up is the consideration of hiring a State Board of Education attorney as presented by Ms. Lucas. Would be hiring Mr. Adam Miller. Is there a motion to approve that item? Motion by Mr. Keenan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Blackburn. Any discussion? Mr. Fafaria?
Dr. Oxendine?
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Hall? Is recused. Dr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Treasurer Briner?
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Hunt?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Chair Davis?
Yes. Motion carries. That concludes our action items for today. And before we adjourn, I want to express on behalf of my colleagues a special thanks to all the DPI staff, especially the technology team, for making this meeting so successful and for taking this show on the road. Your service is just terrific to our success. I also want to express our appreciation to our host here at the clubhouse, at the Mad Boar, and at the inn. You made our stay enjoyable and comfortable and well fed. So thank you so much. Also want to thank the Southeast region for hosting us, and in particular Duplin County Schools and Superintendent Tyndall. We appreciate the partnership with you these past 3 days and every day thereafter, and thank you for what you're doing for the students in Duplin County. And finally, I want to thank our colleague, Mr. Reginald Keenan, who graciously hosted us in his home county this past 3 days. Mr. Keenan, we appreciate your hospitality. Remind everyone that we will meet on June 3rd and 4th back in the Education Building in Raleigh for our official meeting date, and we look forward to seeing you all there. I now ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Kamnitz. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hall. Mr. Fafaria?
Dr. Oxendine?
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan? Mr. Hall? Dr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Blackburn?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Treasurer Briner?
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor Hunt?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Chair Davis?
Yes. Motion carries. We stand adjourned. Have a good day.